What's up, guys, and welcome to Cooking with D. We're in the kitchen on this evening. Guys, it is pouring rain outside, and it's cooled off a bit. And you know, when it's raining and cold, you get a little wet, so you want to warm up, right? You get cold when you're wet. You want to warm up. So I decided to do something a little bit different today. Today, we're going to do some comfort food on today, and that is going to be uh, a Mexican cornbread minus the corn and the beans because I don't care for that. So the ingredients that I'm going to use in my Mexican cornbread is of course, we have the cornbread, we have the diced tomatoes, I have some chopped onions, 1/2 of a chopped onion, and one very large diced up jalapeno pepper. Okay, so we're gonna start with the ground beef. Of course, you're gonna need your ground beef. Because I'm only doing a small portion, I only need a little bit. So I have 1 pound of ground beef. I'm gonna go ahead on and open this up, and we're gonna get to cooking this. So the first thing I want to do is turn the heat on this pot. Get that started. I'm just going to pop this open right here. Add my ground beef into the pan and season. All right. We're going to break it up, and then we're going to add our onions and our jalapeno peppers in this mix. Okay. So I'm seasoning with, I'm not using taco seasoning because I'm not making a real Mexican cornbread. We're going to call this a Creole cornbread, okay? So, I'm going to put this on low. Let me get me something to separate this meat. We're going to go ahead on and separate that beef. And let it cook. And then we'll drain whatever liquid we have in that pot. We're going to drain that out of there because we won't be needing that. We're going to add those diced tomatoes in that, and that has moisture in it. So we're going to get rid of the fat that's going to come from the ground beef. Just want to make sure that you get this separated as best as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but for the most part, you want it separated, okay? We're going to let this ground beef cook until we don't see no more pink in the meat, guys. We want to thoroughly cook this ground beef. Then we're going to drain it and season. All right? So while that's doing that, I'm going to go ahead on and open up. I'm using Jiffy corn muffin mix for my cornbread. I am using 3 of them. So we're just going to pop this in the bowl. So again, we're making my version of Mexican cornbread, guys. You can add whatever you want in your Mexican cornbread. You can add black beans, pinto beans, red beans. You can add the taco seasoning if you like, corn, uh, along with the tomatoes, onions, jalapenos, and you can also add bell peppers. But I don't care for all of that stuff in my cornbread. So that's why I have excluded those things. But feel free to make your cornbread the way you like, okay? So this is just about done. I'll go ahead on and turn the heat off of that and get to mixing this cornbread. So we use 3 boxes of Jiffy corn muffin mix. That means we need 3 eggs, right? 1 egg per box. You can also add a few teaspoons of sugar in your muffin mix if you like your cornbread sweet like I do. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead on and get my milk in here. And mix it up really well. So again, this is just a simple and easy cornbread recipe. Um, it's a Mexican cornbread minus the corn and the beans, guys, because I don't eat that stuff, right? So I'm not going to put it in. This is the recipe for a Mexican cornbread. This is the basic recipe. You can add all of that stuff into your ground beef mixture if that's what you prefer to do. But like I said, I'm only using the diced tomatoes and the onions along with the jalapeno peppers. So you just want to mix this cornbread mix until it's well incorporated. I'm going to add a little bit of sugar to mine because I love a hint of sweetness in my cornbread, guys. I'd say that's about a tablespoon of sugar. So now since we have this well mixed up, we're going to just put this to the side and work on our mixture. But first, don't forget, you must drain the oil out of the ground beef. So I'll be back in just a second. right, so now since we've taken care of that, we're going to go ahead on and season this up. We're going to use some cayenne pepper. Just a little bit of Tony's. You really don't need to add any salt content in here because you've got your tomatoes that have the salt content in it, okay? And also that cornbread has salt content in it, sodium in it. So we added some onion powder, a little bit of accent, garlic powder. We're going to turn the heat back on this. A little bit of garlic powder, okay? We're going to mix this up really well. And then we'll add our onions, tomatoes, and jalapeno peppers in there. We can just start dropping everything in the pot, okay? Onions in here and our peppers. All right, so we're gonna let that saute down, let that get soft. And while I'm doing this, I'm gonna go ahead on and grease my I'm gonna add just a little bit of water in here because I'm gonna need some help to get those onions soft, guys. I'm gonna go ahead on and check my seasonings too while I have the pot uncovered. The best thing I can tell you guys is if you're using something like a season all for your mixture, season it a little bit at a time and taste as you go so you can make sure that you get the right flavors, okay? You don't want to over salt your food, so go with a little bit at a time. What I'm doing right now is greasing my baking pan. And then I am going to start laying down my cornbread mix. We're going to go for more like a pie than just the cornbread laid on top of the ground beef mixture. So we're going to close this in. We're going to close that mixture in. Okay? That's how I prefer it. I like the crust at the bottom and on top of the filling. So we have that done. Now what I'm going to do, like I said, we're going to go ahead on and layer some of that cornbread on top at the bottom of that pan. And then once our mix finished cooking, we'll take the rest of it, lay it on top of the cornbread, and then add the rest of the cornbread mix on top of the mixture. So we're gonna have something like a cornbread meat pie, so to speak, guys. Make sure that your oven is preheated to 350 degrees. That way you can just pop this in the oven. It's only going to take about 15-20 minutes to bake. And you guys will be good to go. All right. We're going to lay some of this in the pan like this. And then we're going to pour the rest of it on top of our mixture. Okay. All right. So like I said, this is not going to take long to cook. I'm going to turn the heat up on this. And we're going to take the cover off and just watch it cook, guys. Smells good already.